20 minutes to work, and it's pretty good.
Okay. No, I'm not familiar with that. I was certainly ready to give it a try the other night, because it just, for whatever reason, it was just one of those nights. But all is well now.
And that's what matters most.
Yep. So
I'm excited about we're live on YouTube. Hello, YouTube people.
Oh, okay. Hi, YouTube people.
And you probably heard us about Kava Kava. It's a great supplement that I recommend. So, okay, cool. And are you excited about our panel discussion?
I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. Are we going to have a sort of a meeting of the minds beforehand, or is it just going to be, hey, let's see what happens?
Well, option 3, we'll have a bunch of set questions. I'll moderate, and I think that'll be good. So each person can come up with 2 or 3 questions or topics they want to discuss.
Okay.
And you can get everyone's opinion on it, a feedback on it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, I'll have to come up with some questions then. Sounds good.
Yeah, a couple of things you want to talk about. I mean, like, what, based on the dental offices that you deal with, like, what has kind of the biggest challenges, what has it been, and so on, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
So
I will be ready for it. I don't know all. I haven't met the other people. The one dentist, Dr. How do I pronounce her name?
Hergy.
Hergy? Okay.
Hergy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to go back and find one of her past webinars, and for some reason it just didn't let me play it. So I was like, okay, I don't know what's not working here.
Okay.
Maybe
did you
try to do it in Safari rather than Chrome? That could have caused it anyway. But yeah, so hopefully, we'll get something working better the next time around on that front. And I wouldn't have had to ask you how to pronounce her name.
Let's see here. Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to get different perspectives.
For sure.
I know getting 5 perspectives is better than 1 perspective. It's more dynamic.
Yep.
And I think people just find it more entertaining.
Yep. Yep. I think so too.
And then we're looking to keep that style for future.
Yeah.
For future ones. Well, I mean, like, to have at least 1 panel discussion.
Yeah.
Per month.
When they work, a panel discussion really can work well, but you do have to have it planned. There's no doubt about it, because I've seen sometimes where you kind of wonder, oops, somebody didn't do their homework. It just didn't work out well. And other times it's like, wow, that was really an effective discussion. And when you play the part of the moderator, I know sometimes it's just stand back and let it happen, because boy, it's the people doing the talking, they're interacting so well, you just let it go.
And I think the great thing is that we're in uncharted territory at this point. So it's really exciting to see what everyone's perspective is. And I'm pretty sure people watching will be surprised on kind of perspectives or areas that we just never thought of. Whereas I think with old topics, I think before the pandemic, and like pretty much everyone knows about, like, have an idea of how things are, and there's seem to be a central consensus on things. But I think with the pandemic happening, so many things are changing, and different things in different areas as well. Right? I'm pretty sure things are different there in Ottawa as they are here in Toronto. That I think it's going to be a lot of surprises and a lot of good learnings.
Right, for sure. Yeah. Now, how has the 5 o'clock start time for these webinars worked? I mean, a lot of offices here in Ontario would just be finishing. And so I'm wondering, like, is it too early for them, or would they prefer it later? Or
what I've noticed, I mean, it's kind of hit and miss, because not hit and miss, but it's difficult to say because each webinar is so different. We have different times, different speakers, reaching different audience, and then so on. So it's really hard to have a set standard. So, but what we found was that when it gets too late, people are focused on having dinner with their family.
Yep.
Around 5 or 6 in Toronto is good because now they don't go home. Like they finish off work, the last appointment, so they'll be able to watch the webinar before going home, right? I feel that once they get home, their mind just shuts off, and it's like, oh, I don't want to think about work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of a mix. Because I've been involved in some where the start time has been like 8 o'clock to sort of try to also help accommodate people out on the West Coast, for instance. So it's in the middle of their day. So,
was that effective?
I haven't been the one to set them up, so I mean I've appeared on them, and it's just been okay. I don't know how they wound up working for some of the people. Webinars, like you say, they can be hit and miss. You can have some where something could be going on. Maybe the title really appeals to them. Maybe it's just that day happens to work for them better than any other day. Other people, they're kind of like, I'm happy to wait until it's recorded, and they'll watch it at their leisure and go that route, and they don't worry about catching it live. So
I think I think our goal here is to actually make content that's digestible for everyone, and to watch a webinar for an hour. It's a little bit difficult. It's difficult for some people. So what we're doing actually is taking the content and chopping it up into kind of bite-sized pieces that they can digest.
Okay.
And I think that's I think that's going to be the chunk of the views. Starting 2 minutes.
Yep.
That'll be a chunk of the views that are. Okay, that's in the chunk of the views that we expect. Is pretty much the content we create afterwards. So then people can just watch whichever chunk they want at any time that they want. So yeah. So thank you everyone for watching, for tuning in. We have Facebook. We have it live on Facebook as well. So I'm gonna share a link with you. Watch whichever chunk they want at any time that they want. So I'm gonna share a link with you, everyone. So that's our Facebook link for the webinar. So if you want to share that on your page, share on your profile, you'll be able to, all your friends and family members, all your Facebook friends will be able to watch it live as well. Counting down to the last 26 seconds. It's very exciting.
The anticipation builds.
I know the movie theaters are closed. This is your next best thing.
I don't know that I can pull off the celebrity good looks, though. So we're happy to do with what we got.
Too bad we don't have filters, or else we will all look like Tom Cruise.
Hi everyone, my name is Shawn Peers and I'm the president of DentalPeers. And with over 35 years in business, we are Canada's longest running buying group dedicated to providing dentists in private practice with cost savings they could only otherwise see in the DSO world. Now I'm excited to be returning to join my friends at Dentistry Business for my third free webinar with them on Wednesday, October 14th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This one is called The Pillars of a Winning Dental Team. So I have to ask, do you ever feel like you are operating a good practice, but it still feels like it could be doing just a bit better? Do you ever wonder, what would it take to move your practice from good to great? So often, the difference lies simply in the ability to make sure you and your team are on the same page. The more you can get everyone in sync, the more it seems like the practice is just running itself. So what is the secret to achieving this? Well, it comes down to methods of communications and systems that are simple, consistent, repeatable, and predictable. Every team member understands the systems and protocols you have in your office. They know what to expect of themselves and each other. Just as importantly, you know what to expect of them and they know what to expect of you. Now look, you cannot plan for every surprise that will happen in dentistry. Life always has a way to throw a knuckleball in your direction. 2020 has sure taught us that. But with the right systems and training for your teams to follow, we can reduce the number of surprises we will experience. And this means a better patient experience, a better team experience, and a more profitable practice. So if all this sounds good to you, please go to www.dentistrybusiness.com, register for the webinar, and then join me on October 14th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for what I promise will be an entertaining, educational, and energetic evening. I'll be looking forward to it.
Dentistry business. Welcome. We have a great one for you today. The question you have is, how do you create a winning dental team and become a more profitable practice? So often the difference lies in the ability to make sure you and your team are on the same page. The more you can get everyone in sync, the more it seems like your practice is just running by itself. So what is the secret to achieving this? It's in the methods of communication and systems that are simple, consistent, repeatable, and predictable to transform your practice from good to great. So today we have a great speaker, Shawn Pierce of DentalPeers, with us today. So before we get started, I want to give you a background on us, Dentistry Business. We are the dental education platform where we bring in the thought leaders from the dental industries to share the experience, the knowledge, and best practices to help you build and grow your practice. It's more than, it's much more important, essential, critical now than ever for you to focus on improving every aspect of your dental practice. So we've had over 30, 40 different leading dental industry experts who've been part of our series, and we continue to have more as we innovate our webinars into panel discussions, and we also have other very big surprises coming up. And just to let everyone know, most of the people that's watching are from YouTube, watching this through YouTube Live, Facebook Live, or now LinkedIn Live. We've been approved for LinkedIn Live. If you want, you're free to enjoy it. If you want your CE credits for today's webinar, make sure to register at dentistrybusiness.com. And enter, if you need a promo code, enter DBLearn, and you'll be able to register for free for this webinar and get your CE credits. And so this little background about me, I am the founder and CEO of Dentify, a result-driven dental marketing platform and marketing service that help dental practices increase the new patient flow. Using our platform and services, we've seen clients increase new patient bookings by 40 up to 400% every single time. We started in 2010. And for me personally, I also teach the dental marketing social media fundamentals course at the University of Toronto. And we hosted the annual dental marketing conference which has been put on hold this year due to COVID. And our featured speaker today is Shawn Peers of DentalPeers. He is a recovering lawyer based out of Ottawa who provided extensive legal advice to members of the dental community during his 15 years as a practicing lawyer. However, in 2005, Shawn felt that there was a way he could put his skills to use in the dental community in a different way. So he embarked on a path that had him take over the DentalPeers buying group started by his mother, Elaine, in 1985. His goal with DentalPeers is to help private practicing dentists compete with the big DSOs on service and supply costs while ensuring their complete autonomy. DentalPeers works with you. They do not own your practice. Let's see here. Shawn, do you want to come back on with us? Just turn off your video for the intro there. There we go. Here's the mystery man himself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much for the kind introduction, Sharky. And thank you very much. It's cool to see that video again. Thanks for having me back. This is my third time to be able to be here with my friends at Dentistry Business. And always happy. Sharky has done a great job putting together a series of presentations and speakers that I think have provided incredible value to the members of the dental community. I hope that everyone has had the chance to join as many of the webinars as possible. Take what you've learned from it and actually implement it into your practices, into your lives in a way to make things operate better for you on all facets. And I hope in some small way I'm able to contribute a little bit to that on that front as well. That's me. That's what I look like. If this is the first time that you've had the opportunity to join me on any of my webinars with the Dentistry Business team, that's who you would see if we met in person. Perhaps a little bit better looking on that picture because you have the beauty of a professional photographer and lighting and camera angles that make you always look a little bit better at that point. But I'm the CEO, as Sharky said, of DentalPeers. We're a buying group based out of Ottawa, but we have members across the country. Our mission is to help private practicing dentists basically give them buying power that they would not have on their own. So we take the members of our group and we negotiate pricing on a whole host of supplies and services that you need to operate your business effectively and efficiently. And we give you the pricing advantages on a consistent basis that really only a DSO of a similar size would enjoy. DentalPeers also does some consulting and coaching. So we want to also help you on a top line approach to make your system and your operations work better for your practice and for your life, because your practice is a big part of what you are doing. You know, we spend so much time of our day in our work mode that we really want to make sure that it's working as well and effectively and efficiently and with as few headaches as possible so that we can enjoy that aspect of our life as well as that part when we get home. So that's the mission behind DentalPeers. And we, on top of that, we also love to do some speaking, educating, and working with members of the community on a broad range of things. And so today, I wanted to sort of take a little bit of a step back. I know it's a little bit, it's been challenging. I was watching the news last night, and it's been 7 months now since we really entered into this whole pandemic mindset. And depending upon where you are, you could be in a territory that has been pushed back into red zones and are facing some degree of restrictions again, and seeing some businesses that have had to close down in your local community. So there's no doubt that our mode for the last few months has been to think about how do we survive and get through this pandemic. And that's important. There's no two ways about it. But at the same time, I wanted to take a little bit more of a more fundamental look and look at it from the standpoint of this pandemic is not going to go on forever. We are going to be getting through it at some point. We don't know when, but we will. And we want to make sure that not only are we going to survive this pandemic, but that we can figure out a way to make sure our teams thrive. That's key, because the best run organizations can deal with adversity like this and actually come out better off as a result. Hard to believe that that could be possible, but it can happen. And it takes having a lot of your fundamentals in place beforehand. So we're going to take a step back and focus on how we develop the pillars of a winning team. Okay, and make sure that that is something that we have in place, both for those times when life is normal, life is good, life is back to what we would like it to be. And heaven forbid that we have to endure something like this again. But should that happen, well, you know what? Our team has a solid base and a solid foundation. And because of that, we get through these tough periods that much better than we otherwise would. So let's talk in terms of what it takes to create what I consider to be the 4 pillars of a winning team. And I've identified 4. It could be, they are the dentist, could be the owner dentist and the associates. It's your hygiene team, your clinical team, such as your dental assistants, and also your admin team. Now, there's different categories of jobs within some of those different pillars, but those are your fundamental 4 pillars, and you want all of them to be strong. It's kind of like the walls to your house. All 4 of your walls have to be working together to really be able to support and house a strong structure. Now, some of the things that those walls will be called upon to do will vary. One may have a greater degree of sun exposure. One may wind up facing more wind just because of the side that it's located on. So sometimes the walls get tasked with different functions, but they all have to be going towards the same end goal. And that is to make sure that the house remains strong, that the roof to your house remains overhead. And the same applies with the pillars of our winning dental team. The tasks that we are going to look at from each of these pillars is going to be different. The dentist is not going to be performing the same tasks as members of the admin team. But that doesn't change the fact that they still have to have an end goal that puts them on to the same page. If they don't have that, then we're going to have ourselves struggling. We are going to find a team that, generally speaking, will not be achieving its full potential. So that becomes the fundamental question. Are we on the same page? How do we manage to get all 4 pillars of our team working together, working in conjunction, doing different tasks, but always with the same end goal in mind? The end goal being to make sure that our patient care and our patient experience is the best it can be, because when we focus on that, our practices, just by sheer nature, will become that much more profitable. So that's how we have to try to get things started. And doctors, if you're out there listening, I have some bad news for you, because it starts with you. Okay, it starts with leadership. And this is something sometimes when you mention to a number of dentists, they kind of cringe at. I don't know how many times when I have been working with different dentists, coaching them, consulting at their offices, and I face that dreaded sentence when I get talking to them about the things that they need to do to be able to lead their team more effectively. And they just look at me and say, well, I can't do all that. I don't know how to be a leader. I'm not a leader. I wasn't born that way. If that's you, doctors, if you're listening, or if that's the doctors in your team, if you can any of you look at that and say, yep, I know a dentist just like that. They just want to come into the practice, they sneak by the front desk, run into the back as fast as they can. These days, doff their PPE and get out there and treat patients. And then as soon as the day is over, boy, they're gone. They're gone as fast as they can go. They don't want to do anything more. Right off the bat, if that's going to be the case, then we're going to have a hard time getting the pillars of our team to really function as well as we would want it to be. Building a winning team is going to be a challenge if we can't start with leadership. And even if you are not the owner dentist, if you are an associate at a private practicing clinic, if you are an associate at a DSO, there are still going to be times when the team will look to you for leadership. And leadership doesn't necessarily mean you have to be that bold, strong-jawed, loud, dynamic leader that stands out in front and tells the team, follow me, I'm going to lead us where we need to go. Leadership can sometimes be best executed by those who can be very quiet, who can be introverted, but yet they understand that their role as a leader is to make sure the members of their team are the best they can be. Now, they don't just push them for that, they do lead them for it, but they don't necessarily have to do it in a way that's dramatic, that sort of becomes that quintessential movie style, that's what a leader is all about. Behind the scenes leadership can be just as important. Quiet leadership is often the most effective form of leadership. You simply have to find your comfort zone, not try to be the leader that you think you should be based on what you are seeing, but the leader that suits your personality, the leader that looks after their team and leads them in a way that they are motivated to achieve the best version of themselves that they can. When we can do that, we are embarking on the first step. And it's a scary step because leadership is bringing us into those areas of dentistry that dentists do not find themselves comfortable. It is getting us into the world of business management. And we know this is a huge source of stress for many dentists. Let's face it, it's not what you were trained for. When you go to dental school, it's always interesting. I talk to dentists that maybe are 5 years out. Some of them may now just have become practice owners. Some of them are still associates, either at DSOs, as I said, or in private practice. Some of them have no interest in ownership, and that's fine too. They want to remain as associates. That suits their lifestyle. But all of them, even those that are working as an associate with no aspirations to actually own a practice, will still tell me after 5 years or so of being out that, boy, they wish that they had learned more about the business side of dentistry when they were in dental school, because they just feel there's something missing. They feel that there is some way they could approach their team, some way they could approach their patients that would be that much more effective if they just had more fundamental business level of knowledge. And the problem with that becomes when you talk to the dental students themselves and think, this is what your colleagues just 5 years ahead of you were saying, that, they're not that long out. What do you think we can bring? And
looks like we just... Are you back, Shawn?
I think I'm back. Do I look like I'm back to you guys?
You look alive and good to me.
Okay. I don't know what happened with the technical aspects there. I think I'm back. Do I look like I'm back to you guys? Oh, I'm getting some feedback there. Are we a go? Should I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I was talking about, I don't know when I got lost. I don't know what you would have last heard me say. But, I was talking in general about the fact that, within those dental students, often they don't have a great interest in having any extracurricular material brought to them about the business side of things, because it just doesn't become relevant to what they need to know for getting the degree that they need to be able to move on and practice dentistry. So their focus is not on the business management side, but they're not practicing for very long when they realize, boy, they wish it was. Because now they are out there and they are living and operating in a world where the business side of things is taking over for them. And it becomes a huge factor for what they need to do to operate a successful practice. And they just don't have the skills. So they have to look elsewhere. They have to look towards consultants, coaches, extra courses, you name it. There's great do-it-yourself consulting programs that can provide a lot of useful tips that I'm familiar with. So, Sherry says I'm back. Thank you, Sherry. Good to know. So all of those things then wind up being what they have to embark on to learn these business tips because they still have to be that leader, and but they want to look to their team a little bit as well, right? Because maybe they can get some support and some of the education from other members of their team. But here's the challenge. Let's look at those pillars. They're going through something similar from what the dentists themselves are. Our hygienists, our dental assistants, the focus of their training is clinical. They're not coming out with a whole heck of a lot of business training themselves. So right off the bat, we're talking about a business organization where 3 of our 4 pillars are usually coming to us without any formal business education or training. If they got it somewhere else. That leaves us with our 4th pillar, our admin team, starting often with our office manager. But here's the challenge again there. A lot of the times, our office managers and even some other members of our admin team are former dental assistants or hygienists that decided they wanted to make a bit of a move and out of the clinical side of it and move into the business operational end of things, but they don't have that business experience. So we've got a whole host of people where the foundation of our pillars is not exactly rooted in the strongest of concrete walls. So how do we manage to bring about a change in that? How do we get the training that still allows them to provide the top-notch and best that they can on the clinical side, but gets them thinking in a way that puts them all onto the same page of a more effective business operation? It can be a huge challenge. Okay, a lot of the times the training isn't out there. We've run an office management study club through our DentalPeers buying group, and it's provided a degree of training for those that are involved in the office management side of things. But it's hard to find overall programs geared towards this. So where do we go? Well, we're going to cover a lot of stuff over the next little bit. And in fact, in the 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes that we've got remaining, pretty much every topic that we're going to be getting into are things that you would wind up doing a full presentation on. You can design a full curriculum of a course on. So we're kind of going to be scratching the surface. But I hope it's some way that it can get you thinking about how you need to redo your thinking and what direction you need to go in. So the first thing that we really need to do to have an effective team working on the same page where all the pillars are strengthened is we need to develop a mission statement. And I know I'm putting that up there, and there's probably a whole host of you that are just kind of rolling your eyes right now. Because somewhere along the line, you were attending, when we could attend, a live convention. Remember those? Remember those? We'll get back to them, but it's kind of nice to think back to them. And you attended one of these, a convention, some sort of continuing education program. And you went in and you saw some practice management guru standing before you, talking about ways to make the business side of your dental practice operate more effectively. And they told you, you need a mission statement. And they spoke passionately about the importance of a mission statement. And it was so eloquent, and it motivated you. And you got out of that presentation and you said, yeah, that's what I need. I need a mission statement. And if you were smart, you went back to your team. You didn't sort of impose a mission statement on them. You developed an actual mission statement as part of a team building exercise. Everyone sat down. Maybe it took a few meetings. You didn't do it all at once, but you sat down and you developed this mission statement that you just love. You're so proud of it. It is the best mission statement you've ever seen. Frankly, you've presented it to all the experts in mission statements out there, and they agree that they've never seen a mission statement better than that. They don't know where you came up with it. Clearly, you just get it. It's a thing of beauty. It's poetic, the prose that you've developed. And you just feel that, we can't just have this on any old plain sheet of paper. You bring it to some graphic design artist to be able to put it onto something that you can frame and mount a piece of art where the visual appeal of what you are seeing is as strong and powerful as the mission statement itself. And you gather around when it's put together and you put it on the walls of your practice and you go, ooh. And you think, that's it. We've solved our problems. From here on in, team, everyone just keep that mission statement in mind with every task that you do, and our practice will get better. Nothing changed. Nothing happened. You developed this mission statement, but it didn't seem to catch fire. And in fact, over time, any members that were there that were involved in the development of that mission statement, well, maybe they forgot about it. They forgot what that mission statement is. That beautiful piece of artwork that you've mounted is just now blending in with the paint of your walls. And new team members that you've hired since that weren't there for the creation of this mission statement, well, they barely notice it. Maybe when they came in for their first week of work, they'd look up at it and see it, but ask them what the mission statement for your practice is today, and they just shrug their shoulders. They don't know. So you're thinking, I went through the creation of a mission statement, Shawn. Why are you telling me this? It didn't work then. Why do you think it's going to work now? Simple answer. You just started. You created your mission statement. Congratulations. That's a great first step. That is something to be proud of. But you still have to bring that mission statement to life. Otherwise, yeah, it will just blend in with the walls. It won't do anything to make your practice better. It will not do anything to make your team better. They'll just be empty words. So what do we need to do? How do we take that next step? Well, it's kind of like the business plan. When you think about it, any business organization that wants to improve itself and get things started comes up with a business plan. And a mission statement is the first step in many business plans. It's one of the first sections after an introductory section. But the business plan's not done yet. It goes on to talk about how it will bring that mission statement to life. What needs to be done to actually make that part of your everyday routine, to take that mission statement and build in systems that reinforce that mission statement, systems that are simple, that are repeatable, that take some of those tasks that you are doing on a consistent basis all the time and putting it out there in a way that everyone knows what it is and everyone will repeat those steps in the same way. That is key. Making sure that everything is being done in a uniform manner, no matter which team member is involved in it, is one of the keys to being able to build a winning team. It's how you make everyone understand where you're going. That brings me to what I think is the most important slide of this presentation, because in my opinion, these are the steps that you have to go through to be able to bring your mission statement to life. And as I said, each one of these are easily the topic of an hour-long presentation or more. And we're going to try to cover off as quickly as we can a little bit of information about each aspect that you can hopefully at least take with you and start to think about and say, that's what I need to do. We're going to do that in the next 40 minutes. So fasten your seatbelts. You know, we've got a lot of ground to cover. Let me have a quick sip here to lubricate the throat, and we'll get her going. So the first step, job descriptions. Okay, you need to have job descriptions that reinforce that mission statement. And I know you probably do have job descriptions in your office if you went looking for them and dusted them off from somewhere. But are they actually job descriptions that help build communication systems into your practice, that help bring the mission statement to life? Or are they just something that, you know, you picked up from some other consultant, some other dental office, a friend's dental office? Maybe they were the job descriptions that existed at the time when you bought the practice that you're currently operating. And you think, yeah, good enough. Yep, we've got job descriptions. I look at job descriptions, as I said, as being the first step in building not only an outline of what needs to be done in my practice, but to building my system of communication. And let me explain how we go about doing that. So we are going to start off, as we would in any other process. We have to be able to look at our mission statement and say, okay, what are the tasks that we will do to be able to bring that mission statement to life? And go through and have a list of what all those tasks are. And we need to be able to identify, are they tasks that we will undertake on a daily basis, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually? All of that has to be done. Nice start. But again, what do we need to do to build these into our communication systems? Well, let's start, and I always like to start with my management, with my office manager. So I make this a two-step process. I want my dentist to be able to list all the tasks that they believe that are imperative from the management side of the practice. And I want my office manager to do the same. And I like them to do it independently and then bring them together so they can kind of go through and see, well, did we miss anything? Have we got all the tasks that are going to be important for the management of the business side of our practice? Have we outlined how often these tasks need to be done? Now, if we covered that, the next step is, what is the degree of responsibility I want my office manager to have with respect to these tasks? And by that, I mean, let's make sure that we are looking at ways that don't bog down our communication system, but actually help make it more streamlined. Because invariably what can happen is we get too much information going the way of the dentist. The dentist winds up becoming a micromanager, which drives everybody crazy. And the dentist gets frustrated because they're not really able to concentrate on the part of dentistry and that they love, and that is doing dentistry, being in the clinical environment. So let's, for example, kind of think, what one of the tasks that we would look at and say, office manager, this is exclusively going to be your responsibility. I don't think the dentist needs to know anything about it. Well, let's say it's an admin team member calls in sick for a day. Now, we should have something that we've outlined in our policy and procedures manual that says, okay, admin team member not able to make it in. What do we do to replace that person for the day? Do we have authority to hire a temporary worker? If we have a big enough team, do we have anyone who has a day off or maybe is scheduled to come in later? Can we bring them in early to be able to help out? Or do we simply reallocate tasks amongst those members of the team that are present and hope for the best for that day, knowing we could be a little bit short-staffed? It'll make things a little whirly, but we'll get through because we have a plan. All of those could be the options that are open to the office manager. Now, does the office manager need to go to the dentist and say, what do you want me to do? I don't think so. I think that should be something that, as the office manager, you should just be able to make the decision and go with it. So right off the bat, we create a great communication system because we don't send unnecessary communication along the path to the dentist. We deal with it at the office manager level. Now, conversely, there could be another task, one that perhaps isn't quite as pleasant, and that is when we've decided, for whatever reason, that there's a member of our admin team we need to let go. Now, that person may have been a member of the team for 10 years, but things are no longer working out. Once upon a time, maybe they were an ideal employee, but they've lost their motivation. Things are happening in their lives, but they just don't seem as passionate about being in the practice anymore. So maybe it's time that we have to get rid of those people and we have to let them go. Well, now we're talking about getting into paying notice. And we have to make sure that we understand how much notice that we need to pay. And if we leave that to the office manager, it's the dentist that's ultimately going to be on the hook for paying that if the office manager doesn't make the right recommendation. So maybe that is an area where, office manager, it might be your decision that this person needs to go, but we have to consult with the dentist to come up with the plan as to how we're going to go. This now becomes important communication. All of it built into our job description. So as the office manager's job description is being created, one of the things that we need to do is identify all those tasks that we just say, office manager, take it and run with it. I don't want to hear anything about it unless for some reason things are going wrong. Then I'll step in. If I don't hear, I'll assume it's going right. Every once in a while, because I'm the owner dentist, it's my responsibility to just check in. But I shouldn't have to become involved in these decisions on a day-to-day basis. Then we'll look at those tasks where we might want the dentist involved a little bit more. And perhaps we'll identify how much involvement. You see how we're building up a job description that not only outlines the work that reinforces our mission statement, that also clarifies what the responsibilities of our office manager are. Because when the office manager has a full understanding of their responsibilities, they become better at what they do. They know what is expected of them. They know what you expect them to do, and they know also what they expect you to do. Key component to building that winning team. So we go through and we do that with each task for the office manager. And we repeat that process with all of our team members. So you can see that this is not exactly a quick and easy process. We don't just snap our fingers and get it done. This is actually going to take a little bit of time. Okay, so you have to be prepared to invest that time up front. And some of you might be thinking, oh, too much for me. Well, if that's the case, then you are going to continue to flounder. If you're feeling that your practice is not achieving its full potential, if you're not prepared to put in the time to make it better, then I'm sorry. Bad news is going to be that it's not going to get better. So these are the first steps that we start taking, and we get all these job descriptions put in place, and we identify the tasks. And now we have to identify how we want those tasks to be performed, how we want to make them as simple and repeatable as possible. That's where we get into our policies and procedures manuals. These can take the form of text on a page. Maybe you just have a file on your computer for it. It could all be text. It could be a mix of video. Some of the times the video provides a visual that can really improve with the training and outlining what the policy is for a particular task. But you want to make sure, again, that we are looking at how you do things, because here's the thing. Okay, here is the thing. And my computer just went wonky on me here. Okay. I don't know what happened here. Sharky, I'm sorry. My computer went split screen on me here. Okay, am I back?
We're missing the slide.
This is kind of weird today.
Do I share screen? The rest of the slides?
There we go. Sorry about that, people. We're having some technical glitches going on. So anyway, back to it. Am I here, Sharky?
Yep, you're here.
Okay.
I'm here.
I don't know what happened there. My screen just all of a sudden disappeared on me. Anyway, so we were talking with respect to our policies and procedures. We want them simple. We want them repeatable. We want them reinforcing our mission statement. And we develop that. That's our unique personality, okay? I mean, we've talked about job descriptions. The tasks are going to be more or less the same from one practice to another. Dentistry doesn't change that dramatically. You know, there could be different features for practices that have a certain specialty in some procedures. One practice may be doing more implants than other practices, so maybe that takes on a little bit more of the life of that practice. But by and large, there's going to be a lot of similarity. But we still need to make sure that the unique personality of our mission statement, of our team, is brought to life through our job descriptions and our policies and procedures manuals. So we sit down and we create these manuals that will outline in a repeatable way how we want tasks to be performed. What helps fulfill that mission statement that makes your practice unique? And as we go through this, it helps us to identify areas where we might wind up needing some training. Because we sit down and create all of these procedures and we recognize that, okay, this is how we're going to bring everything to life. This is how we will make our lives work better. This is how we will make life repeatable. These are the tips that when you look at great business organizations, that's what the process they follow. Everybody knows when you go to Disney World, what makes that such a great experience is they have their procedures outlined. People know what is expected. It is done and followed by everyone. And it just seems to work and everything is clicking all the time. That's because they didn't just leave it to chance. They knew what it was they wanted to do, and they've taken the steps to achieve it. And once they've identified everything, they then move on to make sure all team members are trained to fulfill those obligations, to fulfill that mission. And training can come in different forms. You could train internally. You could go through and discover, okay, as we have developed our policies for this, is there anything that some of you feel that you might not necessarily have the full skill set to be able to do the tasks in the manner we've prescribed, to be able to provide the service that we want to provide? And some team members might say, yeah, I think I might need a little bit of help with this. Perhaps there's some aspect of the practice management software system that they just don't feel as strong with. And there could be another member that just goes, you know what, I'm a firecracker on that. I'll train the team. I will show everyone how to do this. Absolutely vital that you get them all functioning on the same page. Absolutely vital that they enter information into your practice management system in a consistent way. It's great the way that our analytic dashboards and our practice management systems have improved so much over the years to make it actually that much harder to put in the wrong data in the wrong field. But it's still possible if you haven't trained people. And if that happens, then what you're analyzing afterwards becomes a little bit less reliable, because not everyone is doing everything the same way. Different team members are looking at it saying, oh, I do this my way. And that's what we want to avoid, because that just leads to frustration. All right, it pulls us back. So when we get everyone going and to get them all on the same page, we have to make sure they have the skills. That means doing the training. Is it internally done, or do we have to go outside and find a coach, consultant, some other organization that can help provide the training for us and get us all so that we can fulfill the skills? And when we've achieved all of this, we have now laid the groundwork. We have now put into place so much of the systems that we need to have to be able to really have a winning team. But we're still not done yet, okay? We still have more steps to take, and the reason for that is simple. No matter what policy and procedure you develop, what system you develop, it needs feedback. Building feedback as part of your policies and procedures is an essential step to make sure that they are operating effectively. If you don't have a system that incorporates a way to learn how things are working and provide you with the feedback to make sure they're working as expected, then you don't truly have the systems in place. You're leaving something to chance. So that's where our last two steps take us. Our morning huddles. Absolutely the first step in making sure that everything that we've talked about from our job descriptions on down are actually being brought to life. And again, I know what happens. You talk to about morning huddles to some teams, and they just kind of roll their eyes. Morning huddles aren't possible. Maybe the dentist won't even show up for them. That's a big problem. Doctors, you've got to be there. Remember that leadership that we talked about? If you aren't showing up for the morning huddle, don't expect the team to do it in your absence. You got to be there. That's part of your commitment to your team. Be there for the huddle. When we get the dentist willing to be there, sometimes we have that age-old resistance that, we don't all start at the same time. We have staggered start times. Sure, maybe 3/4 of the team will be in for the day starting at 8 o'clock, but then we have 3 or 4 other people that won't start till 11. So it just doesn't seem to work because those 3 or 4 other people aren't there, and it just throws everything off. So we just don't bother having a huddle. Or maybe, there's little subgroups that kind of do their own little huddle, maybe. But we're not still really working in a way where all 4 pillars are supporting the team collectively. I know it's not going to be perfect when we have staggered start times, but the reality is, the teams that are performing at the highest of levels still will do the huddle. And as part of their policy and procedures, they will have a plan in place to deal with those who've come in later because their start time is 3 hours afterwards. So maybe it could be that your start time is 11 o'clock. So at 10:45, you go to the office manager. And the office manager will share information with you that we discussed during the course of the morning huddle so that your day goes better. You are all as aware as everyone else now about which patients are coming in. You are as aware of what happened yesterday that maybe there's some phone calls that we should be making because someone had a complicated procedure and we just want to check in and make sure they're doing okay. You are every bit as aware as to what's going on tomorrow. We've got Mr. Smith coming in for a crown tomorrow. Is Mr. Smith's crown arrived from the lab? Do we have to chase the lab? That information gets shared. We all are on the same page to understand that, oh, Ms. Taylor is coming in. Last time she was here, she was diagnosed with needing a crown, but she said no so far. So we need to make sure that we check it out and perhaps be prepared to have a conversation with her to see where she stands on the crown. Is she having even more sensitivity in that area? Are we getting to a case that could be more urgent? All of these things get discussed in the morning huddle. All of these things get shared. And that office manager can take that information and share it with the people that come in later. And those people that come in later can also share information with the office manager about things that they've observed for the patients that they're scheduled to see. And the office manager will now have a procedure to be able to get that information back to the team. It's not perfect. I get that. Wouldn't it be nice to think that somehow, even though some of our team members aren't going to start to 11, that they can be there for the morning huddle at 7:45 in the morning? But you know that's not going to happen. So it's not as smooth a process as having the whole team there, but that's still not an excuse to not do a huddle at all. You've got to do it. If you don't do it, your day is not going to progress as well as you would like. You are going to suffer from a situation where those simple tasks that are repeatable, if you've got the systems in place, those systems will deteriorate because you are not reinforcing them. Great, you set them up with your job descriptions, policies, and procedures and the training you provided, but then you've stopped. You've stopped with the day-to-day steps that bring them to life. The huddles are the first part of that process. You have to make sure that they are adhered to. And the next part are the regular team meetings. And again, I know what's going to happen. A bunch of you are rolling your eyes saying, oh, I hate meetings. Meetings at our office are an absolute nightmare. We meet, we talk, nothing changes. Why do we have them? And in a lot of cases, you don't. Because you've decided that people check out, they're not really there, the meetings don't work, and why bother? Running an effective meeting is a process in and of itself. And I'm going to give you the first tip right now to get started to make sure that you can run effective meetings in 2021. And I'm talking 2021 because here we are, it's mid-October already. Can't do it right now because you're listening to me on the webinar, but as soon as this webinar is over, I want you to be able to go in and schedule time. Pick, say it's the first Wednesday of the month. Maybe that'll be the day that you pick. Book it off for every month of the year. Schedule that time now for 2 hours. Probably a time that's going to make a lot of you panic. 2 hours? My goodness, we don't want to have a meeting for 2 hours. That gets us into an hour of productive chair time. We're already dealing with 20 hours a month, let's just say, of open time. Or let's make it simpler. I'm gonna say I've got 10 team members. Okay, I've got 10 team members that would have been in that day. I'm going to use 10 because it makes the math easy for me. 10 team members that would have been in during that Wednesday from that time slot from 1 to 2. That they could have been working on patients. That's 10 hours lost of productive time. Well, maybe it's 5 because only 5 of them were booked. So let's say that's 5 hours of productive time lost. How terrible is that? And then we look at it and say, okay, but we're working on policies and procedures that make the team work better. And when we can do that, maybe we fill in some of those 20 hours of open time that you otherwise have throughout the course of the month. And maybe what that means is even if we cut that in half, that's now 10 hours that we've picked up. 10 hours of productive time versus the 5 hours that we've given up because we've scheduled a meeting. We're coming out ahead. We're seeing more patients. More patients are getting the quality of care that we need. We get to be more profitable. Isn't that worth the investment of having a regular meeting? So you need to schedule it now. You can always look at it in any month. Say it's a week out, and you look at it and you say, things are really going smoothly. I don't think we have any issues. You know what? Let's not have a meeting this month. You can find patients to fill that time, and I guarantee you, you'll be able to do that. But it's a lot harder to actually undo your schedule where you've got patients already booked and try to put a meeting in. So have that meeting scheduled for the whole year. Pick that one day a month. First Wednesday, like I said, that's just a suggestion, whatever works for you. A time that the whole team is going to be in, and you allot yourself from 12 to 2 o'clock to have that meeting. Okay? And I know some of you are still gulping, but it's vital that you have enough time set aside, because you want to know what happens on offices that try to cram in a team meeting in an hour. Now, they usually pick the lunch hour, right? It's usually going to be 12 to 1 because it's not productive time. We don't have patients then. So let's do our meeting for that 1 hour. Okay, let's do that. So now the meeting that's scheduled to run from 12 to 1, well, you know, if we're on time, we're seeing our patients out at 12 o'clock. But we know we're not always on time. Our patients are going to arrive 5 to 10 minutes late. That's going to put us late. Those patients still have to be treated properly. They have to get the care that they deserve. So that puts us running late. It might be 12:05, 12:10 before we're finished treating them in our operatories. And then we got to clean up our operatories. We got to get out of our PPE, and we want to get cleaned up. And then we got to get our lunch and go to the meeting room. By the time we get there, it's like 12:15. So you've decided now, have we held off the start of the meeting till everybody is there? Because then that's 15 minutes less meeting time. Or do we start the meeting without that person, allow that person to come in and disrupt the flow, know that that person has missed some critical information, which maybe isn't all that critical because we started without them. So if they didn't need to know, why do I need to know? We're already starting behind the 8 ball. And then all these people are still eating their lunches, so you don't have their undivided attention. By the time we get to about, say, 10 to 1, they're starting to think about the patients that they're going to be greeting at 1 o'clock. You're still talking, but they're not really listening. The meeting no longer has a strong impact on them because they've moved on. Physically, they might still be in the meeting room, but they've moved on. By 5 to 1, physically they're gone. They've got to get cleaned up. Maybe they need to brush their teeth. They've got to get ready. They want to be able to greet that patient and get them into the chair as quickly as possible. So you've left yourself with 40 minutes maybe for a meeting. Not easy to really get anything accomplished in a 40-minute meeting. If you want that meeting that is going to be effective at identifying things that you need to tweak, things that you need to improve, all the planning in the world, however great that planning was, still sometimes in the implementation process, you uncover, okay, there's a few things that we could do better. So we need to set the time aside to really dedicate to making sure that we've identified those areas and we've rectified them. I can tell you, when I've talked to team members that have worked on top performing teams, one of the things they identify as being key and critical to the success of that team was effective, regular team meetings. Monthly team meetings that ran in a 2-hour time slot, but the meeting itself didn't start till 12:30. So everybody has time to deal with any patients that are running a little bit late and still get there. And often lunch is provided. A great little way to just sort of show some appreciation to the team. You provide them lunch during that time. It could be a pizza, you could have healthy options, sandwiches, whatever. Just make sure that, from time to time that you do something like that. And everyone, even if they're showing up 15 minutes late, by 12:15 they're there, and they may have to wolf back their lunch pretty quickly to be ready for the meeting to start at 12:30, but it still gives them some time, that they can get some food into them and then be ready. And then they pull out the notebook and the pen that you tell them they must show up at meetings with, okay? and they're not distracted by still eating, you've got their undivided attention for the next hour and 15 minutes, because that's how long the actual meeting is going to be. And you will be discussing during that hour and 15 minutes the things that you've identified in an agenda that was sent out to the team beforehand, so that they can also be prepared to know what is going to be discussed. And maybe they can come with some thoughts themselves. And you will allocate time. You got a particular issue, we'll spend 10 minutes discussing that. The next issue, we may give 15 minutes. Maybe that's one issue that's going to take the whole meeting. Who knows? But you allocate time so that you can work through things efficiently. A lot of the times what happens at meetings is people just talk because they like to talk. And they're not really adding any value anymore, but they're talking and they think what they're saying is important. But when they know that there are constraints of time because you've only given 10 minutes and you as the chair are speaking up saying, okay, we have to be mindful of time, people get that. And they can self-filter in a lot of cases the information that is truly important. And they can recognize on their own that, you know what, maybe I don't need to spend all this time talking. Says the guy sitting here before on the webinar doing all the talking, right? They get that. And they can work with that. And they'll see a team meeting that becomes that much more efficient. And you go through and you've identified something that you've put into a policy that maybe isn't quite working right and needs to be tweaked, and you've discussed it, but you don't stop there, because again, that becomes the failure of a lot of these meetings, especially these rush jobs of 40 minutes over lunch. They talk about it, they say, okay, so we're going to do this going forward, and everyone's like, yeah, that what you said, but nobody really knows what wound up being agreed to. So instead, we get to what we think is the conclusion on that particular issue in our meeting, and we say, okay, DA, you're the one that brought this issue forward. Today is Wednesday. We've all agreed that this policy needs to be changed. I think we've created some guidelines as to what changes need to be made. I would like you to write out a draft of a new policy for that particular issue, because you're the one that identified it. Now, the DA might be a little bit shocked at getting that responsibility, but guess what? They all of a sudden now have a responsibility, so that we know that some action is going to be taken as a result of the meeting we just held. And we're not going to just tell them that they have to write it. We're going to say, today's Wednesday, can you have a draft to me by Monday? Monday at noon, come to my office. We will sit down and we will go over with what you've done. And maybe there'll be a couple of people that will have helped participated in that process. You can assign that. But you'll assign timelines, accountability, periods of accountability, so that if there is a task that can be done, you have a way to follow up on it. And it keeps getting built upon until suddenly you can come back to your meeting in a month's time with this new policy and introduce it to everybody and get everyone's approval and have them understand it is now officially part of our policies and procedures manual. These are the things that then allow us to improve. Because no practice, however much we planned for it, is going to be designed perfectly and flawlessly. So that's why we have these opportunities for feedback to improve the things that aren't quite working as well as we would want. Sometimes maybe things are working well, but you know what? New technology is being introduced, and we've got to incorporate that, and that will change some of our procedures. So we work that out as well. But the bottom line to it is we do it in a way that everyone is aware of it, everybody knows and agrees upon what's been done, everyone understands their role in making sure they know what to do to enforce and bring those policies and procedures to life in a way consistent with the mission statement. We're bringing it all full circle back to that. When we are doing that, we are strengthening our team. We are strengthening each pillar of our team. These are absolutely vital steps. This, as I said, is the slide, if I can say it, of the presentation. If you don't remember anything else about what I've talked about the slides that I presented, this is the only slide you remember, then you're off to a pretty good start, because this is the main slide. And as I said, we could easily spend an hour or more on each topic with respect to these, to figure out ways as to how we will build a team that is focused on the same page, focused on a mission that is patient-centered. It always needs to be patient-centered. Yes, we're talking about business. Yes, businesses need to make money, but they make money by providing a valuable service, not by being focused on making money. When we are doing that and getting all team members to understand their role, the role that their pillar plays in reinforcing each other for the collective good of achieving our mission, that is how we build a winning dental team. So with that, I would like to thank all of you for being here this evening. I have certainly enjoyed my time here. Technical glitches aside, I don't know what happened. Even right now, my screen looks different from what it did when we started, but hopefully, Sharky, there's a way for you to be able to take over. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to spend some time with everyone here and answering them.
Yep, that's great. You look perfect to me. Your slides look good. You look good.
And Sharky's dark. Will he come back?
It's pretty good. So thank you for that, Shawn. That's very insightful. And what I love about this is that you only have one main slide. It makes it easy for people to comprehend and think about and just remember. So I think that's really great. So now we'll open up to questions. So we are in a lot of platforms: LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. So post your comments in the comment chat section wherever you are, as well as people here in the webinar as well. And if you got any value out of that, please to let us know, on the comment section there. I know we got quite a few views on LinkedIn. So yep, so just so do that, and then we'll take the questions and we'll gather the questions from everyone. Okay. Meanwhile, while we're waiting for the questions, so what do you think is the biggest issue, biggest what's stopping most dental offices from following this path?
I think the biggest one is, everything is so clinically focused, and understandably so. Getting into the business world, there's so many soft skills involved, and it pushes people out of their comfort zone. The clinical stuff, I don't want to say it's easy, because Lord knows, you don't want me doing it. It's not my area of expertise, but it's what the dental teams, generally speaking, are trained for. So that is what they love, and some of them, it is a real passion. I see dentists that are incredibly proud of the work that they do. The team as a whole is incredibly proud of the work that they do. They love to see the smiles that they can create, and that becomes where they focus all their time and energy. I think by and large, it's this idea of splitting off and going into an area that they are not comfortable with. And human nature is such that we tend to avoid things that make us uncomfortable. So we let those things kind of just go and slip by the wayside.
And do you feel that they, with the dentist, they're very busy all the time? And do you feel that, from your experience, is it more helpful to have someone else championing the processes?
If you're meaning like an office manager?
Office manager or the spouse of the dentist?
I'm certainly a fan of having an office manager, whether you feel that the office manager is going to be the spouse. I certainly don't recommend both. I think that can, if the spouse is the manager, then great, the spouse is the manager. Make sure that the spouse understands their role and what they can do. But to have an office manager and a spouse sort of competing over the same territory, that becomes a problem.
Yep, for sure. And how much involvement does the dentist need to be in this? Well, have you seen scenarios where the dentist push for this or and manage this?
Well, I mean, the dentist has to have an overseeing role in this, particularly if this is your practice, you're the owner of it. You still have to have a way to be able to make sure that what has been put together is actually happening. So you do oversee and make sure that goes on. But the idea about it, as I said, is to try to avoid that tendency to micromanage. It's to have the confidence that your team can do the job and give them the skills to be able to do the job. That becomes key. The dentist, you still have a management role to play, but I think as much as possible, you want to remove a lot of the day-to-day management tasks from the dentist's plate and put that onto an office manager. That would be my preference.
Okay, great. So if you have any questions, please post it in there. We're aggregating some of the questions. And so one question here is, how do you get training? How does the office manager get proper training for this?
Well, as I said, that is a big challenge because, there really isn't a lot out there in the way of proper dental office management training programs. At our buying group here in the Ottawa area, we pre-COVID had a study club going where we would meet 3 or 4 times a year and have an opportunity to provide some education and training. That is a challenge. There's no two ways about it. And it's certainly something that I'm looking at saying, okay, how can we fulfill that again? I believe Alex from Maxident is putting something together as well with respect to that, to provide some sort of office management training. But there's not a lot out there that enables you to be able to have the training available to you. I think Transitions has done something as well. But, I mean, you have to be prepared to commit to it. And it's a long program. This is an educational process. A lot of the times, it involves working with coaches and consultants. The coach and consultant actually winds up being, in a lot of cases, a fundamental part of the training for an office manager.
Okay, well, maybe something here at Dentistry Business we should create a course for. Okay, great. So let's see more questions here. And how do you find a good fit when hiring new staff members that would follow the processes, the procedures?
That's a bit of a vague question. I'm not sure that I'm going to necessarily be able to answer that right. I mean, I think the first step is you have to know what it is that you want. And a lot of the times I find that becomes a weakness for offices, is that they don't really set what they want. And their focus winds up on finding somebody who's got experience. And sometimes that's not a good thing. I find that there can be instances where, if I'm using ClearDent software and I only want to hire somebody who has worked with ClearDent in the past, well, I may have someone personality-wise, they seem like they've got it all going. They understand customer service. They understand how to be as effective as possible. And next thing you know, that person doesn't have the knowledge of ClearDent, so they get passed over. And a lot of the times they get passed over for somebody that isn't as skillful in some of those other elements, but just kind of knows the software. So they feel that there's less training that they have to do. I think you have to know what you want when you're going through the hiring process and be prepared to invest in training. Those are some of the first steps, I think, to finding a good fit.
And will you say because of COVID, it's more difficult for the dental office to implement all the proper training, huddle, job description, policies? Or now is the best time?
Well, I always say, I think a lot of us in the consulting world, especially at the start of the pandemic, were telling everyone, you have got a mulligan right now. For those of you that like to golf, you got a bit of a do-over here. If things were not working as well as you would have liked in your practice beforehand, and you thought, oh, I just don't have the time to correct it. The pandemic actually, especially during the lockdown phase, you had an opportunity to be able to sit down and say, what can we do to make things better? We're now at a point where in most areas, even those of us in the red zones in Ottawa, Toronto, we haven't had our dental offices shut down. We may have patients canceling on us, but we haven't been shut down. So it becomes a little bit more of a challenge the busier that we are, but you have to find the way to make some time. And I wouldn't say that now with operating during the COVID era is any better or worse. I think you make the time for it. And sometimes, realistically speaking, what that means is saying, you know what, we will close down production for maybe a day. Maybe we take a day to do like a retreat and just focus on the business side of things to get the ball rolling. And knowing that you are looking at it from the long-term view to be able to say, no production today, but it will lead to better production in the future because our systems will be better and we'll have less open time. So whether it's COVID or not, just do it.
So how much time would you recommend for a dental office to allocate to get started, number one, and on an ongoing basis? So they allocate time monthly or quarterly to kind of retrain or do updates?
I mean, there's no one answer. It depends on what your starting point is. I mean, for some offices, it's going to take a lot longer because their starting point, they haven't done any of this. This is a long process. I mean, simply the creation of a mission statement, you're going to sit down and you're probably going to spend the better part of an hour to 2 hours in, that hour and 15 minutes in a meeting, talking about ideas as a team to creating a mission statement. And that's the one meeting. Now you've got something where you can sort of look at it, someone's got to assemble it, and then come back. You're going to take a couple of meetings at least to develop the mission statement that you're satisfied with. Okay, so whether you spread that out over monthly meetings or you decide to really dedicate yourself to a team retreat, you are looking at that point in time at creating some degree of change management, and you could really get the ball rolling with a good weekend like that. But it takes a lot of follow-up and where that works, how much time that you have to spend, where are you starting from? That's my first question. To be able to sit down and say, this is the amount of time you need to budget, kind of tough to say, but I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to take you a couple of months. You're not going to get this all done just by snapping your fingers.
It sounds like a lot easier with a consultant coming in.
That will help, but even with the consultant, right? I mean, a good consultant doesn't do the work for you. The consultant will guide you. They have to be able to leave you in a position so that you can do this without the consultant being there. So even then, it's still a big commitment on what you are doing.
Yep, for sure. So we are out of time. I just want to thank everyone for attending. If you have more questions, you can reach out to Shawn directly, ShawnPeers at Rogers.com, president of DentalPeers. And for the upcoming webinars for next week, we have myself. Some of our clients are actually getting record new patients this month. And the reason they are doing that, most offices have a decrease in new patients, but our clients have seen a record amount for many of them. And the reason for that is that many dental offices are closed, so people, or limited hours, so people are looking for a new office, and many of the dental offices have decreased their marketing spend. Which leads to very profitable marketing at this point. So I will be talking about how to get new patients, how dentists are profiting, and how what you can do to take advantage of this. And it's very important to have new patients because we don't know what will happen going forward. So I'll be covering that next week. And then after that, because Shawn's so popular, we have him back again for the future challenges in the dental industry. We have 5 speakers, including myself, from different perspectives. And we're talking about issues that we see in dental offices face and how you can prepare and position your practice to succeed in 2021. That's Wednesday, October 28th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And once again, this is how you can get hold of Shawn. ShawnPeers at wilders.com. And this is how you can get a hold of me as well, sharky.lu at dentistfind.com. Look forward to seeing you guys for future webinars. And after this, you'll be redirected to Dentistry Business, where you can register for the upcoming webinars. And make sure you don't miss the one with Shawn. You can miss the one with me next week, but don't miss the one with Shawn again on 2 weeks from now, October the 28th, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, everyone. And until next week, have a good weekend. Have a good week ahead. And thank you, Shawn.